So I know at least some of you, but for those of you I don't, my name is Karja Hansen, and I could best describe myself at this point as a civic generalist. I came to New Urbanism originally through kayaking, and now, about 8 years later, I'm a DPZ alum practicing independently with a focus on all the bits and pieces that it takes to have a functioning neighborhood unit. So this is hard. All right. So we are making incredibly poor decisions. We've long since reached a point where we're held hostage to decisions and actions that are counter to our own individual and collective best interests. We're overwhelmed by things. We can't identify the problems, the things that we're basing our decisions on. And civicism is the light. It's reestablishing relationships and rebuilding civics. So civic literacy requires functional networks and communities. My grandparents' generation uniformly grew up in traditional neighborhoods that functioned and got the active benefit. Passed it on to my parents' generation in places that didn't function from a form perspective, but otherwise still worked for them. And they didn't really understand what's wrong with sprawl, still don't for the most part today. And then my generation grew up in the most of the non-functioning places. And refound that lack, found that missing piece, and have been pursuing it ever since. So to address civicism, we have to implement at the level of neighbors. We have to remember that our shared proximity means that we're in this together. Healthy communities are built on relationships, and only as healthy communities can we determine what is valued, how it's created, and what it serves to forward. Civic literacy scales up, but cannot be built on empty foundations. We need to rediscover functional education, governance, public ownership, social responsibility, and culture. So there's a couple tools for this. The primary one is addressing this at an educational level. We used to teach civics starting in 2nd and 3rd grade, and you used to start learning civics even before that, in the community that you lived in, running down the street, being disciplined by whoever was around, understanding the reasons that you decide to buy the pound of butter from the person on the corner as opposed to from the Walmart. We need to rebuild a civic curriculum that addresses these things both formally and informally. We need to rebuild our communities so that we learn these relationships at a fundamental level. To kind of tack onto that, we need to address governance and asset subsidiarity, and I know a lot of other people who are speaking today are talking more in depth about those. But what that means is that we need to manage our communities at the local level. We need to have possession of our public realm, our assets, at the local level where those things are actually being addressed. Only in this manner can value be determined, the impact of choices understood, and problems mitigated. Also contextual learning, this is what ties it together. You can be told as much information as you want, but nothing actually roots it in your understanding, your decision-making process other than experience. So going through those processes. We need to reject the prospect of prescribed processes and decisions, reestablish contextual learning, self-discovery, and collaborative relationships. Rote learning establishes the basics of decision-making, as I said, but it's out of context, and that's the single biggest thing that is missing from all of this stuff at the larger level is the context. You can generalize and abstract as much as you want up to the higher levels, but it doesn't reapply. You lose all of the finesse, you lose all of the fine grain, whether it's in the built form or it's in the individual decision-makings and practices. So we're told how to govern, but these things have little relationship to how to govern through our relationships and communities, our responsibilities to each other, because we understand it, because we're the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, serving each other, as opposed to being only served by a nameless person that we don't care anything about. So how can we get it done? We have to realize that we're all responsible. We have to build relationships around us. We have to pass on our wealth of understanding and act locally. New and renewed directions always meet resistance. I think everybody in this room has had the experience of trying to talk to something about the lifestyle choices they make and having them instantly be on the defensive because they're already on the defensive. Fundamentally, they understand that there's something wrong with what they're doing, but they don't know what it is, and they don't know what to do about it. So the way that we talk to people about decision-making and making changes in their lives has a huge impact on whether they'll be open to our feedback. This, again, is why it's so important that it's based in real relationships. This is why the planning process can't all go onto the web and be crowdsourced. As great as those tools are, it still has to be person to person. It has to be at the scale of the neighborhood. So really quickly, be brief, be positive, label your own opinions. Make it clear that they're opinions, not fact. You're not attacking, that it's something that you can talk about and have a discussion with and offer help. And one more thing. You know, civic engagement doesn't have to be this grand gesture. It can be throwing a block party. It can be setting up the sprinkler in your front yard for your neighbor's kids. It can be having a card game. It can be starting a discussion in a coffee shop with somebody who's talking about something that maybe you have some input in. Maybe they don't want to talk to you, and that's fine. You just say, you know, all right, have a good day. But the number of times that you strike up a conversation with a stranger, that you put yourself into that uncomfortable place, that you go ahead and go out to the bar or to the event, even though you might not know anybody there, that is the rebuilding of our civic ecosystem and civic landscape. So to wrap up, we need to re-engage with our lives. We need to take active control of our collective decisions and subsequent lifestyles.